Hi, I'm Peter Knight. I want to talk today about how your arms work and how overuse of hands and arms in the golf swing can affect a lot of different things. I've spoken before in other videos about losing posture. Now, the term that's often used for that is early extension. So what I mean by that is that as the club swings down and we're approaching the ball, the back lifts up. So rather than staying in posture, as the club swings toward the ball, the body straightens. So generally the hips will come in toward the ball and the upper body will straighten up. So the body lifting is the upper body extending, hence the term early extension. What we want to do is have a look at some of the things that contribute to that. And a key one is overusing the hands and arms. So as the club swings down and through, if I'm sort of throwing my hands and arms at the ball, my body will often lift as a response to that. So what we need to do is tackle the source. So we're going to look this morning at what the role of the arms and hands is, and more specifically, how to train them correctly. So from the top of my backswing, we'll look at right arm first. Top of the backswing, right elbow is bent about 90 degrees, and my right wrist is bent back about 45 degrees. Now from here, as I swing the club down toward the ball, what I'm looking to do is retain some flex in my wrist and some flex in my elbow all the way to impact. So I'll stop the club from swinging forward, but as the club swings down toward the ball, my wrist is straightened a little compared to what it was at the top of the swing, and so has my elbow, but they're definitely not straight at impact. Not my wrist, nor my elbow. So one way that you can practice that is to start by making very small swings. When the club swings back and down, I've got no tension in my wrist at all, no tension in my elbow, so I'm not trying to hold bends as I go back and through. The natural movement, if I hold the club in my right hand and just keep my wrist free, you can see that the club is going to swing around my wrist. So the bending that's occurring here is just the weight of the swinging club. When I make a small change in direction from the end of the backswing to the start of the downswing, the club is now going to trail, and it'll trail right through to the end of the motion here, because I haven't held off, and I certainly haven't tried to use my hand to flick at the ball. So one of the things that you can do is practice that. So even just with a very short little swing, the arm is very quiet, and from the end of the backswing here, all I'm doing is allowing my body movement to work with the club. So the turning of my body is what brings my arm and the club to the ball. Because everything's free and I'm not trying to hit at the ball with my hand or arm, I'm reliant on the coordination of my body, which is moving freely, and my arm, which is also free. And you'll find that after even just a few little practices, it's actually quite easy to make really good contact. And when I got to the end of that little stroke there, I still retained some flex in my wrist and my elbow. If you practice this movement with the one hand, and you find when you swing through that the club sort of keeps on going, then there's your evidence that you're just doing too much work with that hand and arm. Let's have a look at the left arm, and we're going to apply the same principles. So when I'm holding the club with my left hand, as the club goes back and through, I'll swing it back a little bit. Getting the club moving, I've got to take up the weight of the club. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of work with my arm just to get it swinging. As soon as it's got some momentum, it's going to continue its swing. It takes no effort at all. The golf club's pretty light. When the club gets to the end of the swing, exactly the same as a pendulum, it'll slow and then change direction. When it swings through, I'm looking to allow my body movement to move with the swinging arm. So as I'm swinging through with these little shots, I'm not getting my hand or arm to swing well away from my body. I'm definitely not getting any movement through my left wrist here where the wrist folds like that. Now, if you're doing that habitually in your swing, you'll find that initially it'll seem quite difficult to get rid of it, even though the objective is to do nothing with it. If you've been active, it'll take a few reps and a lot of attention on not having tension through here. So if I'm doing exactly the same thing, but this time just with my left arm, I'm going to let the club swing back. My body movement will bring the club through. And then of course what we need to do is put two hands on the club and do exactly the same thing. So all the time I'm monitoring activity or lack of activity in my wrists and my arms, my shoulders as well. And so it just feels like I've got a movement that's moved by my body, but my body and my arms with these little shots feel like they work together. Once you get to a full swing, there's a lot more speed, there's a lot more tension in the entire system, so it's more difficult to achieve. There'll naturally be a little bit more work done, of course, because you want club head speed, but we still need to stay away from having excessive movement with hands and arms during the swing. Now, if we go right back to what I mentioned at the beginning, and you're one of those players who has that extension early in the downswing or as you're approaching impact, then you can practice these little shots, but also be mindful of whether or not your body's straightening. And the way to do that is just, again, very short shots, quiet hands and arms, body swings through, and then as you're swinging through, note whether or not your upper body has changed. It's going to be a lot easier to do that with a short swing, and then once you've got the feel of doing that, build up the range of the movement, build up the speed of the movement, and look to retain the same sort of feeling. Now, a great thing to do for any golfer really, regardless of whether you extend early as a habit or whether you overuse your hands and arms as a habit, is if you are doing this movement as the part of your warm-up, there's no stress on your system. So you don't have to worry about muscles being sore, muscles being cold and not warmed up yet, because these little movements will start to gradually create mobility through your body as well as waking up your golf swing. Give it a go each time you practice and before you play your rounds.